Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here, back with an update on the markets. Bitcoin, our cryptocurrency is topping. Bitcoin's been down this week, so let's look at that in depth. And most importantly, the topic of discussion will be if Bitcoin crashes or if this is the beginning of a longer term correction, how do you survive it? How do you play it? So I'm going to give you some of my thoughts around how to survive a Bitcoin crash or a cryptocurrency crash, and some of the strategies that I'm going to use, and I'll share that with you guys. First, some quick updates. So I took a little bit of time off, was on vacation, a little bit of a vacation, sitting on the beach for the last few days. I'm back now, but I got to tell you guys, it was really tough to not look at the charts and prices, and I didn't. I kept my promise to myself. I did, I took the phone out a couple times and looked at the quick updates to see what was going on, and it was pretty wild out there. But I made the most and enjoyed myself. But I didn't do any trading. I didn't do any in-depth chart reviews. So now I'm back at it, looking at these charts, looking at Bitcoin, seeing what's going on with the last week of volatility, to say the least. But a couple of quick updates for all of you guys that have purchased the technical analysis course. Thank you very much. I got some really nice reviews on some of the videos. Some of you guys posted some comments about how much you've enjoyed it, how much it's been helpful to you, the value you're getting out of it. And really, guys, I really appreciate that. The reviews, the positive reviews. There's not a way to leave a review on the website itself. Maybe I should look into that, but sounds like you guys are enjoying it. For those of you that have taken advantage again, and I really appreciate it. If you're interested in learning more, I'm going to put a video together, a separate video that's going to be more of an in-depth course review, showing a little bit more about what it is, some slides and all that. But you can get it at nodeinvestor.com/training if you want to learn more. So let's get to it. So the market cap is still above $100 billion. We're just shy of $105 billion, and it has been all over the place here this last week. We've seen Bitcoin as high as basically 3,000. It was like 29, and then it just dropped, bounced, dropped, bounced. I'm going to go in depth on the Bitcoin chart. Ethereum has been super strong still. Also saw some pullback, but still strong. Guys, I would not be surprised if going into August, we see Bitcoin and Ethereum switch places, even if it's temporary. I could see, I mean, there's a gap of $6 billion on the market cap here. So Ethereum could pop if this market holds up, and Bitcoin could just sit there or slowly grind down a little bit more. And I mean, we could see these flip flop. That would make some headline news if we see Ethereum as number one. But there's been some other ports in the storm that I really like. LITECOIN is holding up pretty well. It's very volatile. It was down as $25 yesterday or so, but very nice, bouncing right back. Dash is holding up okay. Zcash has been one of my favorites. I talked about this in the newsletter. I said 230 was that breakout zone. Some of these other ones are holding up. I'll go into some of the strategies here, but let's look at the charts. So here's Bitcoin. When the markets get this shaky and volatile, it's always good to just zoom out a little bit, right? If you're used to looking at the 1 hour charts or the 4 hour, I mean, here's the 1 hour chart of Bitcoin, kind of all over. Here's the 4 hour chart, look, still not looking good. And here's the daily, right? So you have to take an assessment of different views, right? Near term, what could happen? Longer term, is the trend still in place? And so the short story is the trend is so far holding up, but I'm going to just be straight and say Bitcoin, if this longer term daily average or 30 period EMA on the daily charts doesn't hold, Bitcoin's going to have another leg down. Right now it's looking vulnerable. Let me just say it that way. It's not looking very strong. The positive here is it had the big sell-off, massive volume came in and popped it right back up, so that's a good sign. But this big red day was a very bearish candle, sliced right through, and the volume was pretty high, then followed through to the downside. Not as high volume, but still above average, not good. And the up day volume has been relatively light compared to the down day volume. So the bear signals are starting to stack up, not in favor of Bitcoin. This could just be a run-of-the-mill correction, a few days, settle out for a week, and then back up. It could. Or it could be the start of a longer-term down move. So the good news is the longer-term moving average is held. Now it's starting to flatten out a little bit. The shorter-term one is starting to come in. What you don't want to see is this dip below, and what ends up happening now is that now becomes an area of resistance. So you'll see Bitcoin prices fall, they'll rally, but then they'll slow down right at the moving average, bounce back, fall down, rally, hit that moving average, and start stair stepping down. You don't want to see that. If Bitcoin begins to break this recent consolidation around this $2,000 to $2,300, which was a key area of resistance, and once we broke that, it's now holding up so far as support. You don't want to see it break this. If it breaks below this zone, that's going to be the trend change there in Bitcoin, and we'll probably have a longer leg down at that point, and we'll do some assessment. So basically, you just take it day by day right now. But if I had to guess, I'm going to say Bitcoin has to hold this. It looks like it's going lower in the near term. Hopefully I'm wrong about that, but right now this is just not looking good, bouncing against these moving averages. It's going to have to break above here pretty soon. The only positive is that it held this $2,400 area or so, and it's so far holding up. Let's take a look at Ethereum. So Ethereum has been much stronger, especially in the last week. It had that big pop. It did this little bear flag here, and it was already running pretty hot. Put this short-term bear flag in. That was the last little pause, and that was around 200 or so. Went up, gave you another very short-term pause. Not even a bear flag, more of like just a pause to the moving average, and that was around 250. And then from there, it just went straight up to basically 400 before we hit some volatility. And so here we are now. The good news on Ethereum again yesterday was big volume on the downside that rallied here back up. If you look at the daily, on the daily charts, Ethereum looks just fine. I mean, if you zoom out, it's riding this shorter term moving average as it's been riding most of this move up. And so far that's holding. It dipped below briefly and went back up. So Ethereum looking pretty good right here. Just keep a close eye on these. There's really nothing to do at this point. If you want to buy some, maybe this is an opportunity to pick some up, but it's very risky right now. Let me just be clear about that. The market is a little shaky. Any new buys right now are going to be considered high risk, so I would definitely keep an eye on that. I'll go over some rules, my ideas as to how to trade this right now, but let's look at some charts. So Ethereum, let's look at the 4-hour. Again, looking like Bitcoin had the big shakedown the last couple of days, bouncing back up. But again, this big red candle with the high volume, that's not a good sign. They bounced it right back up on lower volume, not a good sign. And then another leg down here. This volume dried up as it neared these $400 mark, which there wasn't a lot of interest. And then on the downside, it started showing more selling again. So could be some profit taking, could be some panic selling. I know there was news that drove some of this. There was exchanges being hacked. I mean, normal stuff for a cryptocurrency, right? Just a day in the markets. So just keep an eye on this, guys. I mean, it's been very shaky here. I mean, look at what we did here. This is incredible. We went from $400 all the way down to 250, 260 on Ethereum, and we're right back up to 340. I mean, talk about some volatility there. So if you were buying it at 400, you must have been one of these panic sellers at 240, 250, because that's a big move down. It doesn't look like it on the charts, but it's a big move down. And so just keep in mind, we had this big panic over here. Ethereum held up okay. So we tend to have these from time to time in cryptocurrency. It's known for being volatile, and we just have to take it day by day, look at the charts. Very quickly, people want to call the tops and call the bottoms. I like to just read the chart, look for confirmation. I have an idea for what I'm looking for. Right now, it looks like the downtrend is broken on Ethereum, so it's moving back up. I think Ethereum is one of the stronger ones in the bunch, so Bitcoin certainly looks much weaker than Ethereum right here. So a couple of rules that I would do. So there's really 4 key ways to play this. One is if you think this is the top, you think Bitcoin's going to crash, Ethereum's going to crash, cryptocurrency is going to take a big hit, then what you could do is just get out. You could just simply sell everything and cash out and just wait and watch on the sidelines and hope that that wasn't the bottom when you sold and prices don't start rallying. That's always the risk. When you sell out 100%, the risk is you sold at the lows and prices just start going up from there. But some people are okay with that. I mean, if you've been in Ethereum since last year when it was $8 and $12 and you're over here at 400 and 300, hey, you're okay with taking some nice profits, and everybody has their own personal financial goals and opinions of where the market's going to go. So that's option one, is just a complete let me step aside, watch from the sidelines, and at that point your strategy is I'm waiting for the correction to play itself out, and I'm going to get back in at much better prices in a few months or sometime early next year or whatever you think the time frame is going to be. So that's strategy one. Strategy two is you do a partial. So you say, you know, Bitcoin is out. Let's say you're in Ethereum here, right? Let's say you bought Ethereum along the way up, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to secure some of the gains here, and I'm going to get partially out. And partially could be whatever it is to you, 50%. It could be less than that. It could be more than that. And maybe you get part way out. That way, in case the market does start to rally again, you're still in it. But if it continues to go down, you've already secured some of your profits. So that's a pretty good strategy right there. And again, it depends on your portfolio size. It depends on when you got in, right? I mean, there's just a lot of variables. You have to think about what's best for you. If you have some substantial gains, and in this recent rally, it's not uncommon to see gains of hundreds and hundreds of percents or 1,000% plus gains. If you have some of those, hey, there's nothing wrong with taking partially out and saying, you know, I'm gonna pause and take a breather here and leave some in, and let's see what happens. So some profit taking is good. The third option here is to reallocate and put some money out of Bitcoin and into something that's showing some better relative strength. And so let's look at an example, right? So one that I really like right now is Zcash. And if you look at Zcash versus Bitcoin, look at how much it's been outperforming Bitcoin. So let's zoom out here a little bit. Let me do the dailies. So this big spike was the news during consensus week of JP Morgan working with Zcash. Then it kind of just flagged out a little bit, and then has since been outperforming Bitcoin drastically. I mean, you look at 0.08, 0.09 BTC, now we're basically doubled almost to 0.16. So Zcash has been outperforming Bitcoin. So that's another option. If you're in Bitcoin or if you're in Ethereum, you can say what's going to outperform these, or what's going to go down less when they go down, right? So that's relative strength. So you want something that's relative strength wise. Another one, for example, would be BitShares, right? Now, BitShares has recently joined this top list, but right, look at this, outperformed Bitcoin substantially, right? So, they were kind of going sideways, and now it's going up. So that's a way to look at it. Find something that you believe is going to hold better relative strength. A good way to look at that is what's breaking out on the charts versus Bitcoin, or you can even do versus Ethereum. So if you're doing Ethereum Classic versus Ethereum, the chart will just tell you one's outperforming the other. So in this case, when you see the drop, this means Ethereum is outperforming Ethereum Classic. If you think that's going to reverse to the mean and pop, then that means Ethereum Classic will be a better hold. So those are ways to look at it. Relative strength is very valuable during these kind of markets. And then number 4, your option is, well, do nothing, right? I'm in the market. I'm going to ride this out. And I think this is a short-term correction. I'm in it for the longer term, or I'm going to just keep doing what I've been doing along the way. And that's fine too, right? I mean, if you have a longer-term view, if you're one of those that believe, hey, Bitcoin's going to go to 5,000 and ultimately 10,000, and Ethereum's going to be 500 and 1,000, then this is really just doesn't matter, right? This is just some short-term blips on a longer-term view. And so that's more of a longer-term look at the markets. Maybe you're just kind of holding these for the long-term invested. You're not really trading these, and that's good, right? And that's fine too. So There's different options, and everything just applies differently to what your personal goals and beliefs are about these cryptocurrencies. And so you can always just do nothing, write it out, just keep looking at the charts, alerts, and watching where things are going. So some rules to remember when you're doing this: don't overtrade in these choppy markets. So let's look at a chart of Litecoin real quick. When something is going sideways and choppy up and down, and there's the panic selling and then the panic buying, this sideways market will exaggerate your losses. And here's why: because you're going to lose in slippage and you're going to lose on the margins when you buy and sell. So if you bought Litecoin on the way up and then you see this big panic selling and all of a sudden it starts to drop and you're thinking, oh no, it's going down, and you sell here and then it dips a little bit more, but then it starts to go back up. Oh, I'm going to buy, and then you buy here and it starts to sell, and then you sell it off here and you see it pop and you buy back in here, and then you start to see it sell and you sell it, and you see what happens. You lose 10% here, 10% there, 15% there. Next thing you know, you do several of those trades and you're down 40, 50, 60%, and Litecoin has done nothing but go sideways, right? So you got to keep an eye on that. If you over trade, that's your worst enemy, because every time you buy and sell, I mean, you're not going to pick the exact tops and the exact bottoms. You most likely will see it turning around. You'll get in. You'll see it turning around on the other side. You'll get in, get out, right? So over trading is really bad to do during these choppy sideways markets. That's why it's best to pick one of the other strategies where you're just going to watch and write it out, or you're going to sell half and stay in the sidelines. So just don't over trade during this big up, big down days. The other thing is margin. Do not trade on margin. These are so volatile. 20% up or down day is normal. And if you're borrowing money to trade, or if you're borrowing money to invest, that can get very dangerous, and you can lose 100% or more in some cases. So just don't borrow money to invest, and don't trade on margin during these very volatile. I just don't use margin at all for cryptocurrency, because it's just too volatile for that, in my opinion. And finally, don't invest funds that you need back right away. Because if you're willing to ride these out, but you're forced to sell because, hey, I need this money for a surgery, or I need this money to pay some bills, and I was only investing it for 2 weeks and I was going to get it back. And guys, don't do that. Yeah. As I've said several times, cryptocurrencies are very risky, very volatile. If you're going to be in this, only use capital and funds that you are willing to lose if that happens. So I'm going to do my best to keep educating you guys on how to read these charts and how to do this on your own. But at the end of the day, guys, there is risk. So please don't invest or use funds that you need back right away, or that you need for something else. Just some of my tips and my strategies. Let's summarize real quick, and then we'll look at a few more charts. So rules for surviving the Bitcoin crash, a Bitcoin crash, or cryptocurrency crash. You fill in the blank there. So number one, as I said, you can just get out completely and wait it out. You can look for a bottom or a resumed uptrend. Again, the risk is you sell at the lows and then you miss out on the way up. Number two is get out partially and limit your exposure. So take some profits, maybe half, maybe a fourth, whatever you feel comfortable with, and then you use that capital to buy back in at some better prices. Again, the same risk. If you sell at the lows, you can see prices going up, and there's nothing wrong with buying back in if you were wrong, but that's the risk, right? You miss out on some of that move up. Other option is to do nothing. Just ride it out. Take a long-term view and a more of an investment mentality. And then reallocate. And that's move out of Bitcoin or Ethereum into other things that are showing more relative strength. And again, just some rules: don't trade on margin, don't invest money you need back soon, and don't overtrade. That's probably the number one mistake that people that are new to this make, is they're overtrading. They're trying to guess the markets, buying, selling. You're going to just exaggerate the losses that way. So what I am doing personally is a little bit of a couple of these here. I'm reallocating, and I'm looking for what has been the port in the storm, what's going to hold up better if we see some prices drop. And I am going to take partial out. So I'm doing a little bit of number 2 and a little bit of number 4. Now, I have been in for quite some time. I've seen some very nice gains in this recent rally. So I'm going to just take a little bit, not a lot. I'm going to definitely stay in, but at this point, I'm going to do a little bit and see what happens. And then I'm going to reallocate. So look at what has been the big winners in this last week, what has held up the best, and look for some potential ports in the storm, as I keep saying, some things that have some good relative strength that will outperform Bitcoin and maybe outperform Ethereum and some of these recent leaders. So let's look at a few charts. Some of the things that I have been watching and noticing that has been showing some good strength. Obviously, Ethereum is showing some pretty good strength here. LITECOIN is showing some good relative strength, and I think if we see some more um, conflict within the Bitcoin community, some deliberation, some back and forth, LITECOIN's going to benefit from that. It's already activated SegWit. It's done some things. It's on Coinbase now. I think LITECOIN is still one that is going to outperform. And so it's right back up there. I had the down day, but look at the volume on the downside. Wasn't as big as the others. So we had the big sell-off, but the volume wasn't barely above the average daily. And then on the support yesterday, volume was very high, starting to move back up here. So Litecoin is looking pretty good. I think it might outperform here. I already mentioned Zcash, but let's take a look at Zcash. Zcash has been one of my favorites. I'm going to look at the dollar chart first. So I first mentioned Zcash on the newsletter again. After it started to consolidate from this recent drop, it was starting to put in this nice flag pattern. The buy area was around this 234 area, as I called it. It finally broke out above that on really good volume. That happened on, what was that, June 5th. And just started pulling back and bouncing up and pulling back, but it's just been holding this moving average very nicely. Had a brief drop, but shot right back up. It briefly hit over $400. Yesterday saw a good sell-off, but it's right back up there. So as long as these moving averages continue to hold longer term, Zcash is looking really nice here versus BTC. It's just been outperforming. So there's versus Bitcoin, almost hitting new highs here soon. So keep an eye on Zcash. So Ripple had the big pull down, nice volume up. That was the break of the downtrend, and was sitting real tight when I last covered it, and it's starting to just kind of edge down a little bit. Not looking too bullish right now on Ripple. What I'd like to see on Ripple here is a recapture of some of these moving averages and a close above. In the near term, this 28, 29 cents area, and then above 31 will be very bullish, but right now, not looking too good. Not looking that bad either compared to some of these others, but Ripple's holding up okay. Let's see how it looks against Bitcoin. Versus Bitcoin again, looks like it may be bottoming. So this one may be one that will outperform Bitcoin on a Bitcoin down move. So you can see where it's kind of hit this bottom a couple of times versus the BTC. Looks like it's starting to finally edge up a little bit. Had some decent volume here yesterday. So maybe not too bad on Ripple. Could be one that outperforms. Look at a couple of more here. BitShares has been super strong. Stratus looks like it was finally trying to put a bottom in. Waves holding up pretty good. Golem's been really strong again. Let's look at that one. So we look at it versus Bitcoin. You can see versus Bitcoin, it looks very nice. So it's almost breaking to new highs versus Bitcoin here. So this one has held up very nicely during this recent sell-off. One I'd be looking at. So this is on the daily. It just kind of has these moves up, settles in, moves up. This little pattern that is forming here is actually really nice. So could be moving out versus Bitcoin and breaking out here shortly. It's holding this shorter term moving average, just riding it up nice. So this one's looking really good here. Let's see how it looks against Ethereum. Definitely not outperforming Ethereum, but certainly looking good against Bitcoin. So if you're in Ethereum, maybe you don't switch over to Golem, but if you're in Bitcoin, maybe Golem looks better. That's how you look at those. Let's look at a couple more. Siacoin still holding up okay. It looks like it's finally wanting to break that downtrend it's been in. Oh, Digibyte. Oh, man. Let's look at Digibyte. Digibyte got crushed here. So Digibytes, I had this little cup and handle, had the big breakout, and then it did this not very good looking double top, lower on the other side, very bearish pattern, and then it just broke down from there. Sitting tight right now, hit these moving averages, so this may be a low, but Digibyte got a smacking in there, and the pattern is not very bearish. So even if it decides to sit tight for a while, I would wait, let it put in another base or some sort of nice clean pattern. I mean, it could certainly go right back up from here, but that's not going to be a very bullish pattern. So Digibyte got smacked there. Couple more here before we wrap it up. Bats, very strong. Let's look at that one. Versus BTC. It's a very new one, so we're going to have to zoom in on this one here. So here's the 4-hour. When it first came out, it just started downtrending and then has since been popping. One thing to note is during this recent sell-off, let's go look at the chart here on the line. So during this recent sell-off, this is again a very new one, new ICO that just came out. So when it came out, it was around 16, 17 cents, and then it had the big run up all the way up to 32, and then it just started to downtrend. And look at where it bottomed out during this recent sell-off, basically right at the ICO price, so 16, 15 cents or so, and then right starting to go back up. So not a buy recommendation, but that's actually a really good sign. You see it kind of pop up, retrace that move, hold that as support. If it would have undercut this, that would have been very bearish sign, but it didn't. It held it. Volume starting to come back in here on this upside. So not looking too bad here. BAT's certainly outperforming Bitcoin here today, so moving strongly. Maybe one to keep an eye on as an outperformer. Again, it's very new, not a lot of price history, so just be cautious with these. Don't certainly go all in 100% on some of these newer ones. So that's going to be it for today, guys. I can keep going. There's a lot to look at. I'll do some more dedicated videos to just charts, and I'll cherry pick a handful at a time and keep you guys posted. I'll be back on the Twitter here now that I'm done with my little vacation, and sending out a newsletter here shortly. Until next time, take care, guys.